This is the 2025 BMW X5 M60 in Marina Bay Blue. It's also the LCI and the Go5. LCI for life cycle impulse or mid-cycle refresh, and Go5 is the internal model designation if you happen to see that around. Now, there are already a bunch of videos on this car on YouTube. However, they are for the most part all exactly the same. There's someone that borrowed the car from a dealer for a few hours, and you can tell because all the stickers are still on the inside of the car, and they went over the car in painstaking detail. Here's the M logo, here's the fake fence, here's the tire, here's the roundel, here's the brakes, here's the valve stem cap, and don't get me wrong, those are all great videos, and I watched all of them while I was waiting for this car to come for about 7 weeks. I ordered it in early May. I took a performance center delivery in late June. That added about 3 weeks to the delivery time. And side note, if you're able to go down to South Carolina to pick up a car and do a performance center delivery, I highly recommend it because it's an amazing free experience that BMW offers for you. But aside from that, what those other videos can't do is they can't provide a real world ownership experience of this. And I've owned this car for several months now. I picked it up in late June. It's now late September, and I have several thousand miles on it. I've taken long trips back, like 8 hours back from South Carolina. I drove to Indianapolis and back, and then I take it to work, and I take it to get groceries, and all over the place. And so I can give a more real world daily experience, daily ownership experience, which is what my goal of this video is. And hopefully it's helpful for those of you that are considering this and also just want more information on the car to soak up while you're waiting for yours to come. Let's start with the color. This is Marina Bay Blue. It's a lightly metallic, kind of darker blue. I have a Santorini Blue M8. I had an Enzian Blue M4. I had a Yasmarina Blue prior M4. I knew I wanted some color, and looking at the color options for the X5, I knew this blue was going to be the only option I was going to get. I didn't want another white. I didn't want the silvers, didn't want the green. So the blue it is. In the bright sunlight, and even it's overcast today, it is a gorgeous blue. It really pops and really is unique, and I've had a bunch of compliments on it. That said though, I don't think I will get a car this dark again because it's a darker blue and it shows dust and haze and things just a lot more easily, and it is definitely going to try my clean car OCD. Also, if you're someone that takes your car through a regular car wash, this is going to show swirls a lot easier. This is ceramic coated. It's never been inside a car wash. I hand wash it and it's swirl free, but I've seen other ones that have been taken through car washes, and the swirls are very evident on this darker color. So if any of those things are issues for you, either you want your car to be clean all the time and you don't want to have swirls, you don't want to take it through a car wash and you have to hand wash it, this darker blue is going to be an issue. If you're someone that doesn't mind swirls, doesn't mind hand washing, all that, the reverse of that stuff, great color. Gorgeous color. I just don't think I will get a color this dark again. Let's talk about the new key design next. They've redesigned the keys. They are larger and they're plastic and they are a fingerprint magnet. The buttons have now been moved to the side, and overall, I do not care for this design. Now, this does have comfort access, so if you walk up to the car with the key, it will unlock, and if you walk away, it will lock. So one of the things I love about the cars in general is the comfort access. However, I don't like carrying this key around, and one of the nice things that this car has is it has Comfort Access Plus, or Digital Key Plus, I think that's what it's called. And so I'm gonna leave this key here on the grass by the camera, and you can take your phone, you can put the digital key on the phone, and as I walk up to the car with my phone, it unlocks. When you walk away, it will lock. Just to show you, put my phone in my pocket, the key is down on the ground there. I'm gonna walk up and the car unlocks. And I love the fact that I don't have to get my phone out of my pocket. I don't have to carry a key. I was nervous about this initially. When I first got the car, I was nervous that I was going to be driving places without a key and was that going to be okay? But I haven't put a key in my pocket with this car since I brought it home from the performance center, and this has never failed me. Occasionally, if the car has been sitting when I walk out to it in my garage, it doesn't work with it in my pocket, I'll have to take it out and touch it to the doorknob or the door handle and it will lock or unlock. And as a fail-safe on top of that, in my wallet, I put the digital key card, and you can actually use this to start the car. And so I carry this as a backup just in case. It's credit card sized. And just in case for some reason my phone, something happens to it and I'm somewhere without my phone and don't have a key, you can use this to start the car. You put it in the charging tray and it works. So I love the Digital Key Plus. I really like the side profile. I think it's a really handsome looking SUV. I love the black shadowline trim around the windows, and BMW even kept the Hofmeister kink there on that rear window, which, given some of their recent, shall I say, design choices, is a really nice old school touch for BMW. I debated between the 20, 21, and 22-inch wheels. However, as this is my winter car and is going to have snow duty, the only option for all-season tires came on the 20-inch wheels, and so those are what I went with. These are the 740M wheels with all-season run flats. And people have complained about the ride of run flats in the past, but I think they've come a long way because the ride on these is super smooth. Maybe on 22 inches they might be different, but on these 20-inch wheels, it's super smooth. I know you can get the air suspension for an even apparently softer ride, but these are so smooth I could not see needing that with this wheel and tire combination. I thought the 20-inch wheels might be small on an SUV this big, but I think they look great now that I've had it for a while. I got the red brake calipers, which add a nice splash of color. They are a little bit smaller on the rear wheels, but overall I have no complaints and I'm very happy with my wheel and tire and brake choice. Looking at the front of the car, this has the shadowline trim, and it gives you the black headlight housings, which give it a kind of meaner look, more aggressive look, and it also gets the M double slat grills. BMW purists will say that non-M cars don't get double slat grills. They don't deserve the M grills, and they don't deserve the M wing mirrors. However, like 2% of the population is going to have a clue that that's even a thing. And so from the aesthetic side, I love the look of these grills compared to the regular ones. And now BMW has changed their M grills where they go horizontal instead of vertical, and the effective M Sport vehicles now get the double slat grills. One other thing I did on my own is I swapped out the regular roundel for the I&D black painted ones, and this is a super subtle change that about 0.1% of the population will notice. It's one of those if you know, you knows. And the silver ring around the outside has been painted, and now the roundel is all black, and both front and rear, it adds a nice touch to the car. Speaking of the back now, let's take a look at it. Something I did get for starters is I got the black emblems, and that includes the M60 and the X5 here, and the little side M logos, which are also black. Those are added extra. I don't really care for those, honestly. I think they're a little bit dinky. One of the things I really like about the back of the X5 is the split tailgate. And you open it, and first only the top half opens. The bottom stays shut, and one of the things that I didn't like about my X3 is that or my Jeep before that, is that when I would put things in the trunk, like say I'd go food shopping and I'd put a watermelon back here, I was always afraid when I opened the tailgate, it was going to roll out. So this, they open separately so you can reach in and get stuff, or you can then open the bottom and you can actually sit on this. Apparently it will hold about 400 pounds, and the top here, you can set it to go to different heights, maybe depending on the height of your garage. So I have this set to where it won't hit the top of my garage door. You can either close just the bottom individually, or if you press the button up here, it will close them both. If you are using the key fob, you can use the button on the key fob to open the trunk, only the top half of it. On the inside of the trunk, I put a WeatherTech floor mat because otherwise it's just carpet under there, and this way I don't have to worry about getting it dirty. There's a 12-volt power outlet here. There are some hooks for maybe shopping bags, and a decently spacious trunk. There's an emergency kit over here. I don't love the design of the exhaust. It does have the quad tailpipes, 2 on each side. However, it's essentially just 2 tailpipes behind a hole with 2 openings. And I think it would look better if the tailpipes were somehow designed so they came out more flush with the opening as opposed to just 2 pipes behind a hole. It does have a V8, however, one of the complaints that people have with this is that the exhaust note is really very lackluster for a V8. I don't overall mind it in an SUV, but it would be nice if for a V8, even in sport mode as it is here, it was a little bit more impressive sounding. Moving on to the interior, again, not going to go through an exhaustive set of details here, more so going to comment on the highlights. Coming from an X3, I had heard that the interior of the X5 was a step up in a lot of ways, and I wasn't quite sure how exactly that could be, but this definitely feels like the more mature, the nicer interior. Not more mature in an old person way, but more mature in just a lot of nicer steps up. I went with the Sensifin seats, and people say, well, if you're spending this much on a car, get the leather. I figured I was already spending this much on the car. Let me try and save some money where I could, so I didn't spend an extra $1,200 on the leather seats. And I guess I don't get the leather smell, but these seats are super comfortable. No complaints at all. And they are crazy adjustable in more ways than I could have imagined. Even just the top half will go forward. iDrive 8.5, love it, hate it. I have iDrive 7 on my M8. And I will say that when I go back to that car, it looks a little bit more dated than this. I was against the idea of the screen on stilts, and I think it could definitely still be better integrated. And I love the larger screens. I definitely don't like the lack of buttons here. There are still the 8 programmable buttons that used to be here. You can either swipe down here, or you can go up on the controller here, and that will bring them down. However, I always use Android Auto, and if you are in Android Auto, this swipe up on the controller thing doesn't work, which is kind of annoying and frustrating. The thermostat controls are all in here, and so I have to click down here, and then I can go up and down, and you can set different parts of the seats. And this is just more time off the road. I'm driving, I have to have my eyes down here. You can do temperature here, up and down. That's always on the screen. If you're here, temperature up and down, that's fine. Still, it would be easier as a tactile button. So I love the look of it. I love the screens, the larger size, but I don't like the lack of buttons. The center screen here on iDrive 7, this had more functionality because there were 2 slots for information. There was a spot in the center, and there was a spot on the right side where you could put 2 different pieces of information, maybe the map and your audio stuff, the entertainment data that you were listening to over here. One of the other reasons I couldn't wait to get this over my X3 is that I really wanted the Bowers & Wilkins stereo that I kind of got screwed out of on my M8, long story. But the Bowers & Wilkins, if you can afford the extra couple thousand on it, it sounds amazing. I love the sound of it. It has the lights and the speakers, which, okay, they're cool. Take it or leave it, that's fine. But they are a neat sort of effect. I know you can't get a full sense of the audio from just listening to it from the microphone I'm wearing, but I know people always want to hear it, and as did I, so we'll try some royalty-free music here. So there's that. They at least still give you volume control, although of all the buttons that they leave you, volume control is here, but volume control is here. I feel like they could have replaced this with something more useful. Next track is here, but next track is also here. So I don't know why they have such redundant controls so close to each other. It doesn't quite make sense to me. The sunroof or moonroof, whatever this is called these days, opens up the full length of the roof, and at night has some cool lights, which I guess if you're in the passenger seat or the back seat, they're cool. From the driver's seat, it's more of a novelty. You really can't appreciate them because they're kind of up here behind you, but it's a huge roof and it opens up, gives you a lot of good ventilation. Visibility from inside the car, also very nice. The ride in this X5, again, I have the 20-inch wheels with the run flat tires, and the ride is super comfortable. It's super smooth. Again, you can get a softer suspension. I'm not sure how much softer it could be, maybe if you have the 22-inch wheels, but super smooth ride as it is. Coming from an X3, the X3 is definitely smaller and more nimble, and this going around the corners, you feel the added weight. You can put it in sport mode right down here, and it tightens things up, changes the dash, and it's a little bit better at cornering. Having taken this on the track at the Performance Center, it's still pretty stiff, and I even could gently slide it a little bit around the corner. The engine noise, I don't know if you can hear it. Again, it's not amazing. I have it in sport mode right now. From inside the car, it's definitely not amazing sounding, but again, it's an SUV, so I'm okay with that. So acceleration is not something that I have wanted for in this car. in sport mode. There is plenty of power and then some. Merging onto the highway, getting on on-ramps, passing on the highway. I can't see needing an X5M other than the coolness of the M factor in it. Taking this car on the road for some long trips or even just long rides to and from work, super comfortable between the smooth ride that I've already talked about, the comfort of the seats, and if you get hot or cold, you can use the seat ventilation or the seat heat. So it's a really comfortable place to be for longer periods of time. And I can vouch for the road trip utility of this because my parents and I piled into my X5 some food, a cooler, and all of our suitcases, and it was no problem. Very comfortable for all three of us to get there and back. And a few miscellaneous points. You can see here in this view of the rear wheels that the car does have four-wheel steering, which is to say that going around corners, the rear wheels will turn in and out to give you a smaller, tighter turn radius, which is a handy feature in a larger SUV. Another handy feature is the self-parking. You drive down a set of spaces which it will recognize, you then stop and click on a space, and then as I did here, choose to pull forward into it or backwards into it, and it will maneuver you perfectly into that spot. It used to be that it could only park you directly between two cars, but it now recognizes the lines on the parking lot and will park you perfectly between those. If there are some cars in the parking lot, it takes care to not hit them as you pull into that spot. And while the forward and backwards can be useful, what I think is more useful is the parallel parking, as it does that way better than I can do it in one try on my own. Some final thoughts. Overall, I love the X5 and I would 100% buy it again. I think the X5 is the more mature iteration compared to the X3, and again, I don't mean mature in an old person way, I mean mature in a more refined, more developed kind of way. While the X5 may not garner tons of looks or attention at a local Cars and Coffee, I do think it is a really nice looking SUV. The interior is definitely several steps nicer than my X3. The Bowers & Wilkins radio is leaps and bounds above the Harman Kardon, and you really need to hear it in person to appreciate it. You can't appreciate it based on this microphone I'm wearing and whatever you're listening to it on. Definitely nicer in person. It does only come in a few models of the X5, which was one of the reasons I got the X5 M60. And also, I wanted the V8, which also only comes in a few models. And the V8, as I mentioned, is not an amazing sounding, but it is amazing performing. I've never had a situation where I felt like I needed more power. You can get the full-on X5M if you want, but again, I don't feel like I've needed it based on everything I've experienced in this. The X5 is also obviously larger than the X3, and I like the increased road presence of that larger size. Because it's larger, it's not going to be quite as nimble as the X3. However, again, I have the 20-inch wheels on this, and I took a similar version of this on the handling course at the Performance Center, and there's surprisingly not that much body roll for an SUV this big. If you get the 22-inch wheels and the stiffer suspension, you might even get that much more stiffness, or again, if you want to go full-on X5M, but again, I don't feel like I need to spend the $130,000 plus on it for the little bit of extra that I'll get compared to what I'm getting with this. iDrive 8.5, I know iDrive 9 is out now, but I think BMW is going in the wrong direction with progressively less and less buttons. As Patrick Henry said, give me buttons or give me death.
Give me buttons or give me death.
At least I think that's what he said. I can't remember from history class. I think it's something pretty close to that. But it's more time with your eyes off the road, and I know you can hey BMW it, hey BMW, turn up the fan speed, turn up the volume, but it's not the instant gratification most people want, and you have to, not that complicated as they are, memorize the commands. And I wish they would give us buttons back. So many people want the buttons back, but they seem to be going in the opposite direction, getting rid of even more and more buttons as time goes on, unfortunately. Overall though, I love it. If you're considering one, I wholeheartely recommend you get one from any of the models, the base model, the plug-in hybrid, all the way up to the X5M. I think the M60 is a sweet spot if you've got the money for it. If you've got any questions, by all means post some and I'll entertain those. If you have an X5, post some comments. It's an amazing car, and as always, I appreciate you watching.